Chicago Tomahawk. I'm Mike. I got my line mate Matt with me, and today we're going to go over the Blackhawks game versus the Colorado Avalanche, and we've got a collaboration that we did with Pair at the Point from the FHN net. So we're going to get right into the Blackhawks game, and then I'm going to cue in the Pair at the Point collab that we did. That was a lot of fun to give some insight on the Blackhawks game versus Pittsburgh and what they've got going on over there. And that game's going to be on Saturday, October 16th. So Blackhawks, Avs, 9 p.m. TNT the other night. It was a rough first period. It was brutal. And then the Hawks seem to have gotten stronger and stronger as the game went on. But it wasn't enough. Hawks lose. And Kirby Dach took a questionable hit from Gabriel Landeskog. Landeskog got some, I think he's out for 2 games, forfeits $70,000, and hopefully he learns his lesson because he's known to give these kinds of hits and this kind of behavior when things aren't necessarily going the Avs' way. So, Matt, what did you think of the Blackhawks game?
Well, like you just said, the first period was, oh man, it was one to forget. They got the 2 quick goals. I think 2 of their defensemen scored, and then I think Landeskog got a tip in. Bo Byram, oh man, that was a nice goal. Jack Johnson had a nice goal. And you know what? If it wasn't for Fleury, he kind of actually did stand on his head in that first period. Yeah. None of those goals were his fault at all. And he did keep us in there, and I thought Kubalik had a nice goal. Actually a very nice goal. It was a powerful shot. But I think Tyler Johnson had a game he wants to forget. He was a -3. Seth Jones was a -2. Pretty much our defense were all minuses except Ian Mitchell and Stillman. It was good to see Taves come back. I wish he could have, put some points up as well as Kaner, but they came out flat, and Colorado was ready to rock. It looks like. I mean, even without their stud Nathan McKinnon, and they made us pay, man, in that first period.
Yeah, they did, and a lot of people are kind of sounding the alarms a little bit on the internet, and it's a little bit too early for that. The system, I think, is to fault. It looked like the defense was trying to figure out what the heck that they were doing in the middle, and I'm not sure if Colliton was really trying to make any changes mid-game with this team. Something to be said though is that
get used to it.
at the end of the game, it was 36 shots to 34 Colorado, and the game was 4-2. It could have been a lot worse, and we played what's considered one of the Stanley Cup favorites, and we only lost by 2 goals. This team puts it together, man. I think that they could actually beat Colorado. I think it's a different story when Nathan McKinnon's playing, but at the same time, I thought Colorado, the team, they were all on the same page, and they were all playing well. But let's call the dogs off and not take it too far on this team quite yet. What I would like to see in the future is to see them really clean up that defense, because it just seemed like a lot of guys were confused on where to go. There was a lot of missed defensive pairings. Actually, one of the goals was because of a blown defensive coverage. We had 2 guys on the left side, and it opened up the right side of the ice for a breakaway. I think that was the Bo Byram.
There was a somewhat of a collision, it seemed like, with I think it was Tyler Johnson actually collided with somebody.
Yeah, I think it was Tyler Johnson and McCabe, to be honest with you. And but that's a coaching issue, and I don't think that's really a player thing, to be honest with you.
The stretch passing it's overdone to long passes that don't work.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so they were picking those off, like they were seeing those coming a mile away.
They're just terrible. And we signed Seth Jones to, carry the puck and, play some good D. I don't even think he had a chance yesterday, to even, make any plays. And I don't think Colliton's going to last, man. I really don't. If we want to be successful, he is not the answer. I know that he had a good stint in Rockford and a lot of players liked him, but I mean it's like the same. It's the
Yeah.
same every. I mean, I'm not getting nervous or anything. I know it's just game one. It's gonna happen. We're gonna lose hockey games, but like I feel like we kind of were picking up where we left off last year, and
Yeah.
we're chasing games early, and and we're not adjusting against. You can't play that style against a team like the Colorado Avalanche, man. You can't do it. They will pick you apart, and they made us pay for the mistakes. Their defensemen made us pay.
Yeah.
And they put up the offense. Can you imagine if their offense was on? That game could have been very bad early. It could have been like a 7-0 game.
Yeah.
And I thought Fleury stood on his head, and you know what? He stuck with it, and I'm glad that he kind of settled down a little bit because he did make some good saves.
Yes, he did. And you know what? I'm glad that the game's over. I don't think that the players are going to take it too seriously, honestly, because it was the game number one. They're getting ready for New Jersey, who they're playing when you listen to this today. And they will, and it's a completely different team. I think New Jersey's obviously a team on the rise. They've got a youth movement going on there, and recently signed defenseman Dougie Hamilton. So this is going to be one that's going to be picked apart because of both signings, Dougie Hamilton in New Jersey and Seth Jones in Chicago. So I'm really curious to see how this is gonna play out. I want to see what kind of adjustments they make for this game, because it got better as the game went on versus Colorado, but they need to come out strong versus this team, versus New Jersey, and set the tone so that they don't get caught up like they did against Colorado. And I want to see where Jack Hughes is, to be honest with you. He's been touted as a great player, but I think he came into the NHL too early. I think he needed some time to mature, to mature for the game, because his body, I just don't think that he was ready. I think that he's looking to take a step this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that step is and what this new leadership group in New Jersey is going to do. And I want to see if the Hawks are up to the task. I think that they should be, and we'll see what happens. What do you got with New Jersey?
Yeah, the biggest thing that they've done was, obviously get Dougie Hamilton, and they still got PK there. I think he's a good leader, going to be a good leader for that team. I know they got the Jack Hughes a couple of years ago, and he's like a 5'8" guy, and a lot of people, including like my father-in-law, he was like, I can't believe this kid went first. He's so small, but I think he had a better season last year, and they got some good players. I know their Captain Heischer they're expecting big things from him, and so I still think they don't have a legit number one goalie. I think they're kind of pushing Mackenzie Blackwood, but it's still kind of early to see if he's the guy. But I think the Hawks should win this game. I mean, they should be embarrassed after that first period. I hope they come out and, give the fans something to cheer about.
Yeah, we got to take a look to see if Mackenzie Blackwood's going to play, because he might not play. And I don't know if you know this, but Jack Hughes has really great zone entry numbers carrying the puck.
Oh, did you get that stat from the Jay Fresh?
I did. It was really interesting because he rated some of the top players who carry the puck in the amount that they do it, and he does it just about as much as Kane does.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He's going to get a lot of ice time there too.
Right.
In New Jersey. That's pretty cool.
Hey man, that's an important skill, to be honest with you. Not many people can do that.
Who was his number one defenseman that could carry the puck? Did he say?
I didn't see.
Curious with that one.
Yeah. Well, cool. What we're gonna do is we're gonna head you into the collab we did with Parrot the Point, and thank you everybody for listening again. Give us a follow if you haven't, and most importantly, we've been doing really well for a while now, and we'd like to thank everybody who listens to the podcast, and we're gonna be continue to put out content for you, and thanks once again. All right, today we got Seth and Jessica from Parrot the Point over here. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Jess, how are you?
I'm good.
Where'd you guys get your name, Pair at the Point?
So when we were deciding to podcast from our couch, we were trying to make it Pittsburgh and hockey related. And if you're familiar with the city of Pittsburgh, where the two rivers combine into the Ohio River, there's like a point and it has a giant fountain. And we actually got engaged right by there, and we have a bunch of pictures from that night. So we were like, okay, we want to incorporate the point. And then we figured the point also, like point for defense and a pair, because there's two of us and two defensemen. So that's kind of how we got to it. And we liked the alliteration as well.
You know, what's funny is that, just hearing your name, I would immediately thought, oh yeah, this is cool. Like a husband and a wife deal, two defensemen at the point, but it's really cool that you actually incorporated, one of your life events into the name of your podcast. So
it's a weird synchronicity how things work like that.
yeah, it is. It's kind of how life is. Because I told Matt when we were doing this and we were naming the podcast, because we had gone over a few names, and then I told him, I'm like, you know what, we're gonna say something one day, and we're gonna know, like that's gonna be it. And then one day I was just like, I was thinking of tomahawk missiles because trying to be badass, hyper masculine type of a thing. And then I'm like, oh wait, tomahawks are also on the jersey as well, and tomahawks are even like Indian tomahawks are even more badass, so we went with Chicago Tomahawk. I'm hoping that the Blackhawks offer us some money for the name, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, let's get into some hockey talk. The Pittsburgh Penguins have Crosby and Malkin out. Obviously, that's the big story, and I think that the team is going to show some resilience, going into this season. That blowout with Tampa Bay, I couldn't be more happier of, because number one, we're seeing what the team's like, when they're not 17 million over the cap. And number two, the Hawks usually get their teeth kicked in after they win a Stanley Cup in that first game back. And it's glad to see that they're not the only case. So going into this season, where do you see the team at without Crosby and Malkin?
I really think they're going to finish second or third in the division again. I don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off. Malkin has been less of a force on the offensive side of things last two seasons, less of a playmaker and more of a force unto himself. That can go off for a game or two, but not really where our offense lives and dies. And Sid should be back early enough. He should be back maybe even next week. So I think we'll be all right. I really don't think we've taken too much of a step back in the offseason. We won the division last year. So, I'm relatively optimistic, at least for this season.
So going into this season, I thought we'd make the playoffs, but I thought we'd kind of be mid-tier, maybe like the third or fourth spot. Last night Tuesday night gave me a little bit more hope. I think that we have a pretty good group of guys, and I wasn't sure how the newcomers were going to fit in, but I do think that we have a chance to win the division, but more likely I'm thinking we'll probably get second in the division, maybe to the Islanders. Yeah. I think the Islanders are going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, they really surprised everybody, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of teams are changing their chemistry and their makeup of, speed kills to having some grinders on there with skill. With the whole Malkin situation, Ovechkin's at a point where they're looking for him to break Wayne Gretzky's record, so they gave him a 5-year deal. He scores 30 goals a year, and he'll do it. Does Malkin have that kind of value where his injuries are, he's always kind of been injured, but it seems like they're really mounting up, and he's going to want a new contract. And if he's asking for $9 million a year, are you guys at the point where you're like, no, there's no way that we can pay that and still be competitive?
Yeah. I understand why the Capitals did what they did with Ovechkin, because he's the cornerstone of their franchise, and he's the greatest player they've ever had. However, I mean, you're already going to see diminishing returns this season from him because he's become more of a power play specialist than he's ever been in his career, and his defensive woes are only going to get worse. I think Malkin's in a similar camp. I think he's slightly better defensively, and he's a little bit better 5-on-5 at this stage in his career. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine them giving him more than like 6.5 a year. If he wants 7 or more, I think he start thinking about other options.
So are there any players this year that have really stood out to you that you're like, I can't wait to see this guy play? You know, he's really going to make a difference on this team. Is there anybody standing out to you?
So for me, it is always Brian Rust, and he's in a contract year, which really scares me because we don't have a ton of money. I think we're going to have I think right now we have like $100K in cap space. And so I'm always excited to see Brian Rust. He's my favorite player on the team. And, you know, I think he just keeps getting better every year. So he's the one for me, I think. What about you, Seth?
In terms of the newbies, you know, I'm always prospect oriented. I think Leore could, if we get into a rash of forward injuries, get a call up and he could stick. He's got a wicked shot. He finds open ice, and yeah, for a 20-year-old kid, I think he could really do some damage.
Are there any prospects that stand out to you?
Him really, at least in terms of this year, we have a couple guys that could maybe plug in on fourth line roles in a pinch. Zahorna being among them, but you know we're a little thin at this point in our franchise. We've done well to find some unsigned folk to replenish the cupboards, but overall, it's a little bare.
You know, with the Blackhawks, you know, we've got Jonathan Taves, and him and Crosby are, I would probably say, a lot of like on what they mean to the organization. You know, Taves has always been a two-way player, and I can see him moving from a top line role down to more of like a shutdown center type of role to extend his career. Do you see that the Penguins can change Crosby's role and extend his career? Or do you think that once he's done with his latest contract and, you know, he's getting up there in age, there's nothing else for him to do?
So I think that that is to be determined because he's still playing at such a high level. I do think that he would be willing to you know, sign for more years and play as a 2C or a 3C. And I think that because he takes such good care of himself and he trains so hard that he's really going to make an impact on the team until he retires, no matter where, you know, he ends up. And honestly, I think he'll remain in that 1C just simply because we don't have anyone else. And it just doesn't really seem like we are going to have a prospect who can fit in there. So unless we manage a trade or something, I don't know who we're going to get that's going to be better than Sid, even when Sid's like 38 years old.
He's really modeled his career after Yzerman, and you can tell in the way that he's adapted the last 2-3 seasons to become a defensive force. So yeah, I could definitely see him as he gets older slotting down, but Justin's point is correct in that we don't really have any serious center prospects that are going to be a threat to be a 1 or 2C anywhere in the pipeline. I'm very interested in how Taves adapts because he really did take the whole last season off, and he's just a gem of a player.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was actually going to mention Steve Yzerman because when he first came into the league, he was just an offensive dynamo and just putting up a ton of points. And then Scotty Bowman told him, he's like, hey, if you want to stay in this league and be a great player, you have to change your game and play both sides of the ice. And he did. Ironically, he still put up like 60 goals here, which is absolutely incredible. You know, just thinking back to the numbers that the players were putting up back in those days. You know, Crosby, he other than the concussion injury that he had, and he took off a lot of time for that, and rightfully so, he really hasn't had, you know, like major knee issues or back issues or neck issues, you know. So I can see him really extending his time on the team, to be honest with you, more than I can see Malakin, because it seems like Malakin's body is just breaking down at this point. And it's actually incredible how much these players, their bodies can go through and how much playoff hockey they've played and injuries that they've played through. And on I think it was our last or two podcasts ago, we were talking about the toll of the game that it has on players, not just physically, but the mental toll that it's taking on players these days. I'm curious, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, do you think that they're going to have to just blow up the whole team after, Crosby retires and start from scratch? Or do you think that they could do kind of like a halfway rebuild?
I think they'll try to model after what Detroit has done and maybe failed to do, which is try to find some late round gems and use their scouts to stay afloat and stay semi-competitive. I can't see a full rebuild until Crosby retires, and that could be another 10 years depending on how he holds up.
He's looking good.
Yeah, he is. And he was talking about playing till he was 50 because they were talking about, Tom Brady. It's like, holy smoke. He'll be like, try to break actually, if he were to play till 50, I would think that he would break the goals record and go for Gordie Howe's record as well, right? Or did he play till he was 52?
He played late. Do you remember when Crosby scored that goal against the Oilers? What was that, 2 years ago with McDavid? It's almost like, you know what, kid, you're pretty good, but I'm not ready to quit yet.
Yeah.
Kind of a goal, like a little statement. I loved it.
He did something similar.
Yep. He against McDavid.
McDavid just really turned and like stared. It was in overtime. I remember that goal.
He was on
really
the ice. Yep.
Yeah, McDavid just kind of like turned around and was like, I'm just going to watch because it was a thing of beauty. And yeah, Sid doesn't do that kind of stuff very often.
That was a backhand too.
Yeah.
That was great.
It was awesome.
Yeah. He very rarely goes for those one-on-one dekes anymore. He goes for the higher percentile play. But yeah, he just took it to him. 3-on-3.
That was definitely a statement. Definitely a statement goal. Hey kid, you're good, but I'm not ready to quit yet. So you're going to be second place.
So are there any other teams in the NHL that you guys are looking at? You're like, yeah, I can't wait to see how this team goes, or are you just enemies with all teams, not Penguins?
Like Mike.
Yeah.
For me, I love Colorado. I would really like to see Colorado make, a Stanley Cup run. I actually was laughing because last night Jack Johnson scored a breakaway goal, and we hate Jack Johnson, of course, because we're Pittsburgh Penguins fans, but he scored a breakaway goal. I'm like, what is this? What's happening?
Yeah.
But I really always enjoy following Colorado. Obviously they're cracking with having McCann and Tanev there. You want to see them do well. And I hope that, I hope McCann can become the player that I think can be and just never really was with us or with Florida. So those are kind of my two teams that I'm watching.
What about you, Seth?
I'm strange. I mean, somewhere in my heart, there's a little bit of a Sabre fan because
I can't wait to hear this.
When the Pens were on, death's door, I guess in the lockout and coming out of the lockout, getting Crosby, but still not being able to, fill seats, you had to start thinking about, okay, relocation. Are you going to follow him to Kansas City, or you want to pick a team closer to home? And I visited upstate New York a few times, and back then they had a decent team with like Briere and Drury, and Miller was in net. So they were fun to watch, and I thought that would be an easier transition for me. So watching them go through this absolutely dreadful decade and a half where they just cannot get life, and then the whole Eichel situation and their ownership and management has just been terrible. So I would like them to do better than 32nd, and that's about all you can really hope for that team.
I'm a Landeskog hater because I think he's a piece of shit, and watching him last night, do his usual scumbag routine of hitting somebody from behind when they're, when he feels that, he needs to change the tone of the game. And I just have to bring this up, man, because I just fucking hate this guy, because he only does it to players that
Young
won't
kids.
fight back.
Yeah.
He did it to Kaner a few years ago. He like cross-checked him from behind into the boards. Kaner turned around, saw 6'3", and all 6'3" of Landeskog, and he's not going to fight Landeskog. I fucking get it, and he did it, and then yesterday we've got Doc on one knee, on one leg, going towards the boards, practically cross-checks him, head first into the boards. And I just freaking hate this guy. You brought up Colorado, and it just brings something out of me whenever I see him. If there's anybody in the league that I want to see like Tom Wilson do his scumbaggery to, it's to Gabriel Landeskog.
Or Reeves, yeah.
Or Reeves. Well, Reeves isn't a scumbag though. He's just
he's not. But you'd like to see him just have a little fun with him.
Oh, absolutely. If I could do it myself, I would. But
with the mitts of Bobby Probert.
Yeah, definitely. So when Colorado comes to Pittsburgh, look out for Landeskog, because if you guys are tied or down by one goal, he might go start headhunting on Sidney Crosby or somebody else that's
19.
Yeah, that's 19 or big for you guys, and that's maybe 5 or 6 inches smaller than he is.
Yeah, that Dak hit was pretty brutal. Jess, did you catch that last night?
I didn't. No.
Okay, I'll give you a play-by-play down of what happened. Doc was going into the boards. He was down on one leg, and then Landeskog, after coming off of the boards and hitting 3 other people because he was clearly on a mission, came in and hit Doc, and Doc went like head first into the boards.
Got 2 games for it, I think.
Yeah, I know that he was getting. I think it was getting reviewed today. I wasn't sure what the punishment was though.
Yeah, you feel bad for Doc because he fights injuries almost every season, and if he would have got really hurt, that would have been very shitty.
Yeah, it would have been huge because this is a huge year for him. He was a rookie his first year. He got a back injury in camp, and then the second year last year he got World Juniors. He broke his wrist, so he had to have wrist surgery. They brought him back early, and then he kind of aggravated it during the season. And this year is his first full season like healthy, so it's kind of a big deal at least for us and Doc and his development. Are there just say for instance the Penguins, are there any like say free agent targets that you guys might want to look to get coming up if you guys are going to make a playoff push?
I think we'll probably stay in pat. I can't imagine they're going to go spend more assets that we don't have. I think Extall is probably trying to have a more stable, measured hand than Rutherford, who was just like wild and wanted to make 20 trades a year. So I really do think they'll more than likely stand pat. Maybe they flip a defenseman for another goal scorer if another injury pops up, but nothing crucial, nothing crazy.
Did you guys happen to catch that Kraken game the other day?
We only saw the first period because we live on the East Coast and it was really late. But I think we are going to the Kraken game when they play Pittsburgh here in Pittsburgh. So really excited. And then I also did watch the goals. So we saw, Jared McCann score a goal. That was so exciting. And then we memorized all the trivia. So we know who scored their first goal, who took their first face off, because those are always good trivia questions.
Yeah, they are. I don't think that they're going to be the swan story that Vegas was, but I think that they're going to be a team that I think surprises a few people this year. Maybe go 500 and win a few big games, but maybe going forward they'll get stronger. But they looked pretty good. They definitely looked like a new team on their first game, but I thought that they looked good. They fought back against Vegas, and if there wasn't a couple miscommunication and miscues, I mean they could have won that game. But actually the last goal of the game, there is a review on it because it went off of, I forgot whose skate it was, but he made a kicking motion to the goal and it went in, and everybody reviewed it. announcers were like, "Oh yeah, this is coming back." He made a distinct kicking motion. Look at that. And then the ref comes out and they're like, "Yep, that's a good goal." So they actually could have taken that game to overtime and possibly won it after a disastrous first period. But luck wasn't on their side that night.
Yeah, they were down. They were down big time. And I saw that kicking motion. It definitely was, but I don't know if you've noticed this too. It seems like the rules change every couple of years. There's a new mantra, and it seems like the last 2-3, anytime there's a question about a kicking motion, it always seems like they count it. I don't know.
Wow. No, I haven't noticed that.
I think they're just trying to up goal scoring across the board, and that's one of the things they've just been more lax on.
Yeah, that and what is it? The new cross-checking rule where I guess you can't cross-check people in front of the net anymore. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, so we watched a video on this, and there's a lot of cross checks that seem like they're going to be affected. And I mean, for a team like the Penguins, that would help us immensely, because if anyone watched the Pens Islanders series in the playoffs, I felt like we just were getting cross checked for the entire game. So I think like teams like us, it's really going to help. And then teams such as, in our division, the Capitals and the Islanders, it's really going to hurt, because they really rely on those cross checks to clear the front of the net. But they seem like they're also going to call it just anywhere on the ice more than they currently do.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that the Capitals are, in competition with you guys at all? Are you like, this team's kind of dying off?
I'm not really concerned about them. I think they've gotten their one cup and they're pretty much done.
Yeah.
They don't really have the defense to go anywhere. So they could definitely take a playoff spot and they could look half decent, but they're not a real contender in the same way that they were even 3 years ago. They were grisly then, and now it's pretty barren. Once you get down to their bottom six, they can't even get Kuznetsov to play for them. So
it's also their defense for me. Their defense is just not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're kind of just in it to try to get Ovechkin to break Gretzky's goal record, and it's pretty incredible because, this organization is practically putting it all in for that, and they've practically got Backstrom on life support trying to keep him on the team. And to think that Wayne Gretzky did it without, really trying to do it, and not to mention the practically 2,000 assists that he has on top of it. It's just absolutely incredible,
Now, I mean, different eras for sure, but I mean, the talent of Gretzky, Lemieux, or Howe, I mean, it's just undeniable. You look at some of the things that they did and how unbreakable some of those records still seem. Yeah. I'm still not convinced Ovechkin's going to break Gretzky's. It's going to be tight for sure, but it'll be fun to watch.
We're in the same boat there, because I think Father Time and injuries are going to start to add up. And I'll tell you what, 160 goals, it wouldn't seem like a lot for Ovechkin, say maybe 10 years ago, doing 60 a season. But when you start getting down to doing 30, maybe 25 goals a season, it really adds up.
I think he's also going to start getting injuries that we wouldn't have seen, or he'll have, injuries that he can no longer play through. I think that's going to be a main factor, is him staying healthy and him staying mobile.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he practically went for a routine hit in a preseason game, and then they listed him day to day after that.
Yeah, I saw that. He looked pretty injured, and I know he played yesterday, but you have to wonder, is he starting the season already kind of beaten up a little bit?
Right. He looked good last night, I'll tell you that. He was all over the place, screaming at his teammates, celebrating an assist almost, it seemed like.
Go ahead,
I mean,
Matt.
He's got so few of them, he might as well.
Yeah, no kidding.
I got one for you guys. So I'm just a guy that was watching the playoff series last year between the Pens and the Islanders. Here's what I noticed. The goaltending for you guys was pretty bad. The high glove, they were killing them the whole series. Were you guys surprised that Textall didn't bring a goalie in this summer?
So I am not surprised. I had a feeling they were going to stick with him. And if you would have asked me the day after the game, I would have been really angry about that. But I also try to remember he's young. I think he just turned 26 in April, and he is a good goalie. I think the better thing that we did do that a lot of non-Pens people probably don't know is the goalie coach change. I think that is going to be huge for not only Tristan, but for all of our goalies. We actually saw him working up at our practice with Louis Domingue, and just watching the coach work with him and seeing his knowledge. He looks a lot better than our last coach, and I think that's really going to help him. Another thing people don't realize with the playoffs last year is that Casey DeSmith, who is completely capable of playing in a playoff series, was injured. And I think that, everything would be a little bit different if he wasn't injured and he could have taken over while Tristan got his head straight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the goalie coach, Buckley, when he took over for Murray, you saw the same problem. He got beat high glove a ton from then on. So when that change was made, I believe after the second cup, from Bales to Buckley, it was disastrous pretty much from day one, and maybe cost us a chance at a third cup. So I'm hoping the reset button could be hit for Jerry, and that it's it wasn't too detrimental to his confidence.
Interesting. So you know what, guys? Hawks are playing Saturday. What do you guys think is going to happen? Let's get some predictions.
So Marc-Andre Fleury, if he's in net, which I'm guessing he probably will be, he always performs in Pittsburgh. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks win. And at the same time, it is our home opener. And, it's the first time that we're going to be back to full capacity on a Saturday in Pittsburgh, before a Steelers home game the next day. The city is going to be rocking. So I think if I'm making a logical decision here, I think that the Pens do take it, but I think it's going to be a close one, and I think Fleury's going to keep him in it.
What do you think the score is going to be?
I'd go 5-4. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think the Hawks like playing that way. The Pens like playing that way. Neither defense is perfect. Ours will probably get away from their game trying to chase some goals, especially with that second pair that you guys have that I'm not too sold on. So I could definitely see it being a barn burner situation. So I'll say 5-4.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 4-3. I mean, I could go with 5-4 too. The Blackhawks have a lot that they need to do, and a lot that's on their plate. And to be honest with you, a lot that needs to be fixed, especially watching that first game. And they aren't helped by Jeremy Colliton and his system that he has set up, which is practically nothing for defense. And I think that's a huge problem. I think that we have the better tools there to be successful, but I think the problem is coaching, and that's a problem I don't think that the Penguins have, and they might be able to exploit that really. So I'm predicting a really close game, maybe another rough first period for the Blackhawks, and then things get tight after that. What do you got, Matt?
Oh, after watching that first period last night, it was like watching Pee-wee defenseman chase the guy with the puck and leaving the slot open for a defenseman on the other team to just fire it.
Oh, dude, it was I thought they were getting into the Halloween spirit. I was watching a horror movie.
The way Pittsburgh played against the champs, the first game, that with their three best offensive players out in Crosby, Malkin, and I think Gensel was out too, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And Jeff Carter was kind of like the man, and for the I think he was a first line center, correct?
You got it.
He was good, and I think if they play like that, they're gonna probably beat the Hawks pretty good, probably 5-2. But
yeah,
poor Fleury's got to probably face 60 shots against you guys, and he'll still probably stop 55-ish. But it's never gonna change. We have to tighten up, and we won't, because this coach kind of seems stubborn and he thinks he's a know-it-all. So I think it's going to be a long season for the Hawks if they don't adjust.
I got to ask, though, there were some good moves this offseason.
Very good.
What was the thought process behind putting all of the defensive eggs in the Seth Jones basket for such a high cap hit?
I'll go over that in detail. This is what's going to happen. Seth Jones is getting, 9.5, and what Darnell Nurse is getting, 9.25 or something like that. Cale Makar is getting 9. This is going to be the going rate for star defensemen going forward. For star forwards, the going rate is going to be at a bare minimum, it's going to be $12 million. If you look around the league, you're going to notice that there's a lot of guys signing for 3-year deals, 2-year deals, 4-year deals. And that's because I believe the Players Association owes ownership money in some kind of agreement that they have. Okay. And with that agreement is the cap is only going to go up by $1 million each year for the next 4 years. On the 5th year, the cap is going to go up by $5 million. So there's going to be a $10 million difference in the cap between now and in 5 years. So when Seth Jones's contract doesn't start until next year, he's getting $5 million this year. He's got a $5 million cap hit this year. So when his $9 million cap hit is hitting, 4 years from now, and the cap is higher, it's really going to be like, say maybe a $7 million cap hit of what we have like right now. I'm really surprised. That's why Brady Tkachuk, the whole deal with Brady Tkachuk was that he was trying to sign a 3-year deal so that he could get a mega deal in 3 years, because he would. And
so it all comes down to like COVID and this escrow payback, basically.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we're looking at a cap hit increase in $10 million. So this contract, it's not going to be bad in about 4 years, which would be 3 years into the deal. And using Brady Tkachuk as an example, we're looking at a player that's never scored over 23 goals in a season, and he's getting paid now $8 million a year. And that's because the ownership knows that this is happening. Ottawa didn't want to do it. They didn't want to give him that bridge deal because they knew they'd have to really, really pay him coming up.
Yeah, they're cheap too.
They're real cheap, and they didn't want to pay him. And
Melnick's like the cheapest owner ever.
And even if you look at Kaprizov's deal, I believe he got a 3 or 4 year deal at $9 million. If this kid is scoring 40 goals a season going forward, he might be getting $12 to $15 million on his next contract.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I just don't know if Jones is Jones the player that we saw last year, or is he the player that we saw,
with Panarin?
Yeah.
We're hoping.
I'll be completely honest with you. As long as Jeremy Colliton is the coach, I don't think that we're going to see the best of Seth Jones. He might get some better offensive numbers, but he won't defend like I know that he can. And that's why they signed Jake McCabe. And I really like that signing because, we just need a guy to defend and play defense. You don't have to do anything special. You can leave that to Seth.
I was surprised who he had with Seth yesterday. I think it was DeHaan. They were. I saw 44-4, and I'm like, is that Seth Jones? Wait a minute, that's 4-4, and then
right.
I'm like, why? Why? I thought we wanted McCabe. I thought we were doing this way, and Colliton's like, oh, I'm going to put him out there, and Mike's right though. The coach is definitely gonna make or break what's going on with our defense because Jones did not look good last night. I know it was his first game, but picture if we had Tortorella as our coach, I don't think we'd be getting outshot by like 20 each game. Our defense would be a lot better. But
so you think first goes fired for league wide?
You know what? I'm hoping. So I've never liked this guy to begin with. I mean, how do you fire Coach Quinville? I know there's got to be a time you have to change, but you fired a Hall of Famer, 3-time Stanley Cup champion coach for a guy who's never coached one game in the NHL. That makes no sense.
I didn't like it either, but I 100% agreed that it was time for a change. But I didn't think that they should have done it right there. I think it was like 10 games into the season. but I thought that the Blackhawks, they needed a change behind the bench.
Yeah, but you need to change with somebody who has experience, like a
Right.
Gerard Gallant, or somebody who's been there. Like a playoff coach, not a guy who is an AHL Rockford Ice Hogs coach.
Yeah, I mean, he was trending up for the Ice Hogs, but the problem was I think he was like 35 at the time, and we still had Siebes who played in the AHL.
He played minor
with him.
hockey with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Insane.
I mean, there's some good minor coaches. I mean, Jess, you saw that firsthand, down in Wilkes-Barre, how much of a difference that makes between a playoff team and a non-playoff team at the AHL level.
Yeah, I mean, Wilkes-Barre has been blessed with great coaches. I mean, that's how Mike Sullivan became our coach. And then, before him, what's that guy's name? The coach that went to the Devils, and then I think now he's in Nashville.
Oh, Hines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was Wilkes-Barre's coach back in like 2014-ish era, and he got that team deeper in the playoffs than they've ever been in their history. And then Mike Sullivan came, and then Mike Sullivan got promoted, and they've just had a good batch of coaches down there. And I think that the difference with the Pens organization is they're kind of always trying to see, like, they're trying to have a good coach in the minors that they could bring up if they need to. Yeah, kind of like the players. I think that's kind of the mentality of it. It's next man up. So if something happens with Mike Sullivan, the next guy will be ready. And I think that's a good way to be. And that creates a really good level of competition within our organization. And it creates a good coach in both the minors and in the NHL.
Better hold on to him. Sully is a good coach. I'm from what I've seen in his video clips, his interviews, he seems like the players really like playing for him, and he seems like a really good guy.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my qualms with him. We had Blashill too. I guess is not the Wings are in your division, but you've seen he coaches with Detroit, and he started with Wilkes-Barre as well. I mean, Sully's a hard-nosed coach. He knows what he likes. He can be stubborn at times, but overall, the players do seem to enjoy playing for him. And he's a nice mix between an old school, hard knocks coach with, being under Tortorella for a little bit early in his career, and a new style player coach. So he's got the best of both worlds in that.
Like a Cooper.
Respect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cooper and Tortorella molded into one.
It's really smart, the redundancy that they've instilled there with the coaching staff, because, getting a coach, you got to get a guy that the team respects, right? And when you get a guy that's, 10 years older than you're kind of like, I don't know, I don't know if I have that same level of respect as, say, if you had, Quenneville coming in, you're like, oh, wow, that's John Quenneville.
Well,
it's like,
Q's done an amazing job down in Florida too.
Oh yeah, he's made him relevant.
Yeah.
They've been down there for almost 25, 28 years. And if you look at the level of hockey that's being played in Tampa and Florida, this is what Bettman wanted. He wanted there to be competition all around the NHL in all four corners, like his grandmaster plan or something, and it's...
Wait till he gets cap space when he gets rid of Bobrovsky.
Yeah,
$10
no
million
kidding.
To spend on some more good players.
They hired like a whole crew down there to try to fix his head. So led by Luongo and a bunch of other guys. They were.
That's not the right guy. That guy's nuts.
Yeah, no kidding.
He's a fun follow on Twitter, though. I'll give you that.
He is. I liked him the minute he left Vancouver because we had no choice. We had to hate him.
Yeah.
It's a great series back in the day.
Great.
That one with Burroughs where he finally sunk. That was one of the best games, best series I've ever really watched. It was the first round.
2011, was it? Yeah, the year after we won, yeah.
Yeah, that's when we lost.
Speaking of that,
7 overtime, I believe.
Don't you guys wish that the Hawks and Pens met one time in the Stanley Cup Finals over those dynasty years? Oh, man, it would have been like the best of the best showdown.
Yeah.
And we never got to see it.
It's kind of amazing it never happened. I think the best chance was 13, right? When there was that partial lockout.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If we had a smarter coach, it definitely could have made it. But, we couldn't line match against the Bruins, and that turned out to be a short series. So, yeah, no, it would have been amazing to see Kane, Taves, Crosby, Malkin all on the same ice.
Oh, yeah.
in their prime.
In their prime.
Letang and
Funny
Letang
enough,
and
too, I
Keith-
think a lot of the reasons we didn't get to the Cup Finals those years was because of Marc-Andre Fleury and his playoff meltdowns.
Yeah, that's funny. Matt doesn't like to hear about that kind of stuff, because those are fighting words for him.
I mean,
Marc-Andre Fleury floats on a cloud of pillows for him.
No.
He set
I
the
seen him
worst-
play one game. That's it.
He set the worst goaltending save percentage from a goalie to finish the series in the millennium, and he said it twice. Yeah, so he definitely had some major meltdowns where he was sub 800 one year and then barely 800 another year.
Wow.
2009, he was really, really good.
Yeah, he
Against
was.
Detroit, he stopped that last second shot against Nick Lindstrom, and I was like, oh yeah, I just wanted to see Detroit go down, but I was rooting for Pittsburgh that year.
No, I mean that was a great story, and Fleury's a great goalie, but people gloss over that in his arc for sure.
Were you guys a little disappointed that he didn't end up coming back home to you guys?
I still
when
think he
you heard
will. I think he will.
At the deadline, you think the Hawks will send him over your way? Could happen.
Jess?
So I don't want to say a Fleury hater because I love Marc-Andre Fleury, but I was a huge Matt Murray fan. I bought a Matt Murray jersey. I'm like, this is the goalie of the future. This is going to be so great. Like, good riddance,
The
Marc-Andre
ultimate
Fleury.
jinx.
And
Yep.
the main reason I was like that is because it's so annoying. Pittsburgh people and Pittsburgh fans just think Marc-Andre Fleury is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the city. And it's so annoying for me who loved Matt Murray and wanted Matt Murray to get a chance for them to just constantly be like, Marc-Andre Fleury, Marc-Andre Fleury. So, I never would have said I wanted him back. But then when the chance came and we had that terrible issue with Tristan Jarry in the playoffs, I was actually really sad that he didn't come back. And I agree with Seth. I think at some point, if not this season, I do think maybe he'll sign with us and play like one last season or something before he retires. I don't know, but I think that there's still a chance we'll get him back.
If Colleton doesn't burn him out.
In sports these days, it seems like they're allowing, these players, some players to have, kind of like a swan song, one last year type of a deal. They've done it in basketball, football, and I think hockey might be next where they, it's like one last season for, Ovechkin, or one last season for Fleury where he announces his retirement,
No, I think it's a good thing. I mean, nostalgia is a powerful motivator, and fans like seeing names that are familiar and having that warm fuzzy feeling. And if the players are for it, I don't see anything wrong with it as long as he's able to perform.
Well, hey guys, this has been a great chat. Why don't you drop your information on where people can find you at?
All right. So as always, at thefhn.net, you can find us there along with all the other podcasts and articles. And then our Twitter is at Pair at the Point. So you can catch us there as well. And in our Twitter, there's a link that has, all the places you can find our podcast.
Awesome. And when you guys go to their Twitter, the story behind the name now.
So first goal, and then we'll say goodbye, I guess. But first goal for Saturday, maybe? What are your predictions?
Let's see. I think that Kaner's going to score the first goal.
Matt?
I got Jeff Carter.
I'm going to say Kasperi Kapanen.
And I think the Hawks open it. I'm going to go with Tyler Johnson.
Well, it looks like me and you are thinking on the same wavelength. I mean, it could go either way with that, Tyler Johnson or Patrick Kane. Watch, it's the Brink kid, and they both assist on it.
We should talk about how many shots Fleury is going to face. I think it's going to be 55.
It's got to be over 40. They really do.
And you guys are they're going to outshoot us by at least 15. I guarantee you, Mike.
I disagree. I think it's going to be another close game like Colorado, maybe like 3 shots.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
It's really been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on. We're going to do this again. Maybe we'll do it like maybe around Christmas time. We'll be a couple months in. We'll have more of an aerial view on how the team is going, how they're developing, going into that time. And who knows, we might have different stories to tell.
Definitely. That sounds fun.
Well, once again, thanks for coming on, guys. We love you. And this is a Tomahawk. We're out of here.